When we think of biblical stories today, they can seem familiar and simple. We know how they go. We've heard them our whole lives. But what if I told you one man in the Bible didn't die? Because he was taken by something? Not by God in the way we think, but by beings more advanced than we could imagine. This isn't just a theory. It's a mystery buried in ancient texts, forbidden scriptures, and even the Bible itself. His name was Enoch. We don't know a lot about Enoch. He's barely mentioned in the Bible, but when he is mentioned, it's significant. In Genesis 5:24, it says, "And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him." A pretty cryptic line, huh? For most of us, we just read this and assume it means Enoch died and went straight to heaven because he was a good guy. But let's look at this objectively. What does taken by God really mean? Does it mean he disappeared, leaving behind no trace? Well, yes. Is that the same as being dead? Sometimes. So what had happened? Did he die or did he get taken away? In the past, people haven't been so sure about this passage. Some rabbis and scholars believe Enoch actually did die, but others have interpreted this line to mean something different. They believe Enoch ascended into the heavens, either willingly or unwillingly, and never came back. And it turns out the answer might lie in another ancient text. There are hundreds of ancient texts that predate Christianity and Judaism. One of those is called the Assumption of Moses. Let me explain. Around the Dead Sea Scrolls were found, and along with them, other books. Books that we know as the Old Testament were written around that time. Some were written before Jesus was born, but there were also writings that didn't make the cut. They were never included in our Bible. They were considered too mystical or too different. They were considered dangerous. Those books became known as the Apocrypha. And one of those books, The Assumption of Moses, may hold the key to what happened to Enoch. This book wasn't written by Moses, but it does talk about what happens to Moses. When Moses dies, the book tells the story of how his body was taken up to heaven, very similar to what happened to Enoch. But there's a twist. Moses isn't given immortality. Instead, he gets to choose between immortality and staying with his people. He chooses to stay with his people. He doesn't want to leave them alone. That's kind of selfless, right? But what if Enoch wasn't like Moses? What if Enoch wanted to go? What if he was invited? Now, let's dig deeper. There's a book that's even older than the Bible, older than the Assumption of Moses. It's called the Book of Enoch. It's believed to be written by the same Enoch who vanished from the book of Genesis. And this book, which isn't in our Bible, has some shocking details about what happened to Enoch. In the Book of Enoch, Enoch tells the story of his own abduction, but it's not really an abduction. He goes willingly. In fact, he seems excited. He says, "I was taken up in a vision and a dream, and I saw visions from my own self. I looked and behold, I was carried off in the vision and in my dream." Now that doesn't sound like a kidnapping. It sounds like he wants to go. But what does this story mean? What happened to Enoch? In his book, Enoch claims that he was taken to heaven to meet with angels. Here's what he says, "And behold, I was taken up to heaven in a chariot made of sapphire, and the wheels thereof were fiery, and I was carried off in it." A chariot made of sapphire? Wheels that are on fire? Sounds like a flying vehicle to me. But wait, it gets weirder. He continues, "Then I looked and behold, there was a throne of sapphire in heaven, and its wheels were fiery. And under the cherubim, a fire was burning." Okay, maybe it's just a really detailed description of what he saw. But how many times do we hear about chariots and thrones and sapphire? Too many, but what if this is literal? What if Enoch was taken by beings with technology far beyond anything we can imagine? It wouldn't be the first time this has happened. In the past, there are other stories about people who have been taken by these beings. One of the scariest parts of the Book of Enoch comes when he talks about the Nephilim. You've probably heard of the Nephilim. They're mentioned in the Bible, but not in a good way. They're giants who were born from fallen angels and human women. And according to Enoch, these giants are scary, really scary. They say that the fallen angels taught them how to make weapons, how to cause destruction, and they used that knowledge for evil. Here's what Enoch says, "And they made swords and spears and shields, and took for themselves ornaments of power and of might." Sounds like weapons to me. So these giants were basically superpowered soldiers. Now, this isn't the only mention of the Nephilim in ancient texts. They're mentioned elsewhere, but not in a very positive light. Most likely, these giant creatures didn't exist for long. Here's why. Enoch continues and says, "And shame and wickedness were created in the earth, and the giants slew one another and devoured one another." Oh, okay. So these guys basically destroyed themselves? So what's the significance of the Nephilim? What do they have to do with Enoch's story? Well, you'll never guess. He was sent to negotiate with them. Here's what happened. He was taken by a group of angels to the giants. They said, "Go and plead our cause before them." And he did. If that didn't sound strange enough, it's about to get weirder. As Enoch travels to try and talk to the giants, he keeps going up. He moves from one layer of heaven to another. Each level is more incredible than the last. And he sees all sorts of wonders, including some pretty intense stuff. He describes one level of heaven like this: "And I saw the beginning of wisdom in heaven, its foundations, its depths, and its ways. And I turned again toward the south, and I saw a river of fire coming out of the north." Whoa, what the heck does that mean? He goes on, "Its waters indeed smoke. No one can pass over it, nor anyone tread it, or approach it, or be saved from it." Okay, so let's get this straight. Enoch was taken to heaven, and then he kept going up. Each place he went seemed crazier than the last. He met mysterious beings, heard the voices of stars, and learned all sorts of secrets about the universe. Yeah, it sounds bizarre, but what if it's true? What if Enoch really did go to heaven? The word heaven in this case may not mean what you think. It may not refer to an afterlife. It could refer to somewhere much closer. What if Enoch traveled through multiple dimensions or through space? What if he visited worlds or planets far, far away? The possibilities are endless, and it gets even wilder. He describes the sky as having multiple levels, each filled with its own wonders. He even talks about seeing angels playing musical instruments, but it's not all fun and games. He also sees terrifying things like demons fighting and the souls of the wicked being tormented. After Enoch witnesses all this, he eventually returns to Earth. He brings messages from the heavens to the people on Earth. But what were those messages? And why was Enoch chosen for this mission? Was it just because he was a nice guy? Was it because he was worthy? Or was it because he was destined for something greater? Some believe that Enoch was the first human to be taken by aliens. He wasn't taken against his will, though. He was chosen, maybe even volunteered. This is known as the abduction theory. But I have my own theory. What if Enoch didn't die? What if he's still out there somewhere? What if he was taken by higher beings and became one of them? Think about it. The Book of Enoch talks about how he was transformed and given new life. He says, "And I shall teach thee the mysteries of all wisdom. Come thou near, and I will bring thee into the holy place, and thou shalt see all things well, and all that is wonderful. And I will impart the secrets of holiness unto thee." Maybe Enoch didn't come back because he didn't want to. Maybe he decided to stay with the Watchers or wherever he was taken. Maybe he was upgraded, changed, transformed, given knowledge and powers beyond anything we can comprehend. So what happened to Enoch? Did he ascend to heaven? Was he abducted? Did he become immortal? The truth is, no one knows. But one thing is for sure, his story is far from over. It's echoed in the New Testament and has inspired countless works of art, literature, and film. Enoch's tale has captured the human imagination for centuries, and for good reason. It speaks to our deepest desires and fears, our longing for the divine, and our terror of the unknown. As we look to the stars and wonder about the possibility of life beyond our planet, we also look to the ancient texts that tell the story of Enoch and ponder the possibility that we are not alone in the universe. And who knows? Maybe one day we will be taken by beings more advanced than we are, and maybe we will return with knowledge and wisdom that will change the world.